Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to TestFit Live. I'm gonna wait a few seconds, let everyone kind of hop in. But while you're joining, please write in the comments where you're calling in from, where you're joining, and also if you have a favorite game that you had growing up. Just love to hear what everyone's doing. Holiday season, got a shop for new games, so would love to hear what everyone loved back in the day. Awesome. Let's see. Well, thanks for joining me on this fun Tuesday before the holiday. Today we are going to be talking through manufactured housing. So last week, if you joined us, thanks for hopping in. If you're new this week, welcome. Basically, what we're doing on TestFit Tuesday is we're going to start walking through some of the alternative use cases within TestFit, but also do some deep dives with some folks in the new year on different typologies other than multifamily and industrial, and kind of talk through what those typologies are going through, challenges, successes, and if there's anything that TestFit can do to help, we'll absolutely do it. And we'll love to hear from you all on what you're working on and how it's working for you. And like I said, feel free to reach out whenever you want to. Happy to chat about what you're building. So let's get right into it. Chris, welcome. We've got basically every other Tuesday, we are working on alternative use cases, right? So this week will be manufactured housing. I'm Jack, Director of New Markets here at TestFit. Very excited to be joining you all today. And while we're running through this, feel free to put questions into the chat. If you want to ask some more pointed questions afterwards, I'll put my email in or a link to so you can book time with me as well, and we can always dive deeper. So very excited about it. TestFit, we work in the metric system. It's a great question. There's one about, does TestFit work in French? We don't translate language yet, but we do switch to the metric system. So great question. So for those of you that are maybe new to TestFit and this is your first time hopping in, welcome. TestFit really is working on the idea of bringing a lot of intelligence into our AI and spitting out plans for you. So whether that's site conditions that we bring in or you bring in as well by bringing in a background, a development IQ that's built into our algorithms, as well as your understanding of both construction feasibility and what needs to be developed, and then deal economics as well. So all of that combined in a TestFit gives you that real-time AI approach to make informed decisions as you're changing a site plan and doing a feasibility study. So with that in mind, we are focusing on all these typologies. So manufactured housing today, first in Q1, that's going to be up is retail, which I'm super, super excited about. In a past life, I designed a lot of retail, which ultimately was designing a lot of parking stalls. So we're going to dive into that and actually have hopefully a couple of fun guests to join us as well to kind of talk about the industry and what's going on. Data centers, hotels, self-storage, city planning, and more in the new year. If there's anything on here that you want to talk about before it comes up, feel free to reach out. If there's anything that you want to talk about that's not on here, let me know. We're open to solving any and every typology that we can. So let me know, and we'll happily either deal with it offline, talk on offline, or if we want to, we can always add you to the schedule and hop on live and solve it for everyone. So very exciting stuff. But today, manufactured housing, very, very excited about that, which you can see right there. And so there's a few assumptions that we're going to build into TestFit solve today. So always good to have base level conditions, right? So we're not working on a gray box, right? We're not just playing in a playground. So we're going to have site constraints. So we've already picked a site, and I'll show you where that is. As a site grade, we're going to ask TestFit to solve for 5% on-site drainage, 5% of the total area, a 2,000 square foot amenity building, along with 40 parking stalls for both the amenity building and just the community. Lot sizes. So there's a lot of ways that we can do this in TestFit. We're going to walk through most of them today. And if you have questions as I'm going, feel free to hop in. If you have critiques, also love those as well. But what we're going to work on today is a mix of 3 different types of lots. One to accommodate a single section module, a double section, and a triple, with those dimensions on there, about 75 feet in depth for all of them, and then ranging width. And then we can adjust the mix that we're looking for too. Building sizes that go on each of those. So that single is going to be a 15 by 60, so 900 square foot unit. We're going to look at a 25 by 60 for 1,500 square feet, and a big boy for 40 by 60 at 2,400 square feet. I'm going to show you there's a couple ways even to solve for the building sizes as well within the lot size. So really fun maneuverable pieces for us to play with today. And then road network. Got to get to your unit, right? Got to move the units in too. So we're going to have a 25 foot wide road as well as 25 foot turn radius. And all of these parameters are configurable within TestFit. We can add more into this as well, but we're going to keep it not basic, but we're just going to keep it to these parameters today. And if you have questions along the way, feel free to hop in and put those in. We'll try to accommodate those. So let me go ahead and stop my screen real quick, and I'm just going to switch right over to TestFit. So for those that are unfamiliar, TestFit is a desktop software, but we're really quick. So everything that you're going to see today is live, not pre-recorded. You're going to see my hands actually moving the software. But we're able to solve really quickly because our engineers are brilliant, and we're able to build a very lightweight software that can integrate a lot of different solution-focused algorithms within it. So let me go ahead and share my screen there. Perfect. Awesome. So what we're going to do here is we already picked a site. So I've already kind of jumped in here. We actually used a recently sold site thanks to some data providers. So we're going to solve this for whoever that owner is. Don't know who that is. What we are able to do within TestFit is put in an exact location, which I did. We can put in an address. You can put it in general location, right? We've got a satellite background. We can also switch that between road view as well. And then we can add some other data layers to this. So we can look at US parcel maps. We can bring in elevation data. So you can start to see your contour lines and adjust the increment that you see those at. I think we limit it to 2 feet up to 10. And like I said, this does translate to metric when we do switch into that, but we're working in imperial today. And so what we're going to do is go ahead and hit this blue flashing button, and that's going to allow us to select a site. We're going to go ahead and add it. You can draw in the site if you want to. So you can trace the lines here. You can trace in a background image if you want to. You can type in meets and bounds if you'd really like. What we're going to do today to keep it simple is just go ahead and define from these parcels that are already within TestFit. I'm going to go ahead and select and drag. That creates that assemblage for us, right? So you can just add a bunch of parcels together and make it work. And so like we talked about last week, for those that weren't here, TestFit works on like a typology focused algorithm. So what are you trying to solve for? Is it higher density? Is it lower density? Do you want to look at core base for office? Maybe you're looking at a garden style or even industrial. And then mass based is kind of our open-ended one. A lot for retail, a lot for other things as well, but we'll get into that in the coming weeks. What we're going to focus on is parcels within that lower density. And we're actually going to start from scratch. So I'm not even going to show anything pre-baked for you guys today. We're just going to start from scratch and show you the full workflow. We're just going to go ahead and select basic parcels. Sweet, and that's it. But it is really that fast. So we're able to see different parcel sizes already coming in here pre-baked with TestFit. And this is what we call a preset. So basically it has a bunch of parameters already saved with it. TestFit comes pre-shipped with those presets that you just saw, but you can also create your own. So you don't have to use ours. And then it's really that fast to just click and go into your next site and then make tweaks as needed on a site basis. We can also come in and actually adjust setbacks too if we wanted to. Really simple in here, just kind of messing around with those. And you can also type in that setback that you want as well. Sweet. So, all right. So the first thing that we want to do is we're actually going to start adjusting the parcels, right? The road network is solving with those parcels in mind, keeping in mind the depth that they're all working with. So up here in our nav tree, we're actually just going to jump to parcels. So there's a few different tabs in here. We're looking at none right now for our footprint. We're actually just purely looking at the lot size. And that's going to be perfect for us to get started. After that, let me grab my notes real quick. We're going to look at this individual parcel settings panel. Basically, think about this as your kit of parts approach or your suite of lots that you want to have. And we're going to be able to make adjustments to all of them. First thing I'm going to do is actually change my colors to a little bit of some pre-baked ones. So I know I wasn't going to do full pre-baked, but we're going to do a couple. just because I like the greens and it makes the plan look a little bit nicer. Great. Awesome. So now we've got a few in here. We can adjust our weight, and then what we're going to do is adjust our depth and width. So all of these guys are going to be 75 feet in depth. Makes that super simple. And then our widths are going to vary from 35 feet, and call me out if I did this wrong, but I think my notes are correct. 45 feet, and then 60 feet. And then we have a depth and width flex. We're actually going to leave that just for now, and I'll show you the implication of that in a second. And then we can adjust the weight. Think of the weight as that unit mix, the weight of the percentage of all of your planned units. So I actually want most of them to be that smaller size. We're going to do maybe 30% these and 20% of the larger ones. So you just saw that implication change in real time. We actually just completely revamped the entire plan, got rid of most of the big ones, and instead put in some of the smaller ones. Any questions so far? I know this is a lot really quickly, so I just want to make sure we're keeping it open to everyone. Cool. Nothing yet. So go ahead and feel free when you're ready to just jump in and put in questions, whatever it is. Or if you just love it, you can also tell me you love it. So what we're seeing down here below is actually our tabulations page, which is going to show you the total number of parcels, the percent mix that we're actually getting rather than targeting, which is in the settings panel, and then the efficiency as well. What you're seeing is we're a little bit off right now when it comes to the percentage mix, right? And it's because of something that we call row grouping. So row grouping does exactly what it sounds like. It puts all of the same types of parcels together. So that's why you're seeing all of these kind of coming through. So what we're actually going to do is turn off that row grouping for a second. And now you can see there's that actual mix. And we just hit that percentage dead on. It helps that most of these parcels all of these parcels are the same depth. If you have varying depth, it will still work. It just depends on how much variance there is. We can kind of play with that too. So if I zoom in here, now you can see each block size, if you will, has a varying number of each type in order for us to hit that target amount. So really quickly being able to put that in there as well, and being able to mess with that too. So this is all great. There's a lot of things that we can start to do from here too. If we came up to our parcels within our nav tree, we can actually change that row axis, just start to cycle between different options. You can see different implications down here. You can even see total number of footprints, all that sort of thing, right, kind of coming through as well. But what we're going to do within parcels real quick is actually change this to max area. Sweet. So what that does is it actually adds a square footage building to it. So let me just actually go back for a second to show you that in 3D in real time. So we're going to go back to none. We're going to go into 3D, just a nice little flat land, nothing really going on, right? Going to go ahead and add the max area. Now we've already got buildings placed in here. Some are 2 stories, some are single. So we've got to make some changes to it, but it really does happen that quickly. And we've got pitch truth, which we can also turn right off. Depends on how you kind of want to make that happen. We also have trees. You can turn those off too, but I like them. I think they look nice. Cool. So we're going to go in 2D. We've got driveways coming through. We can keep them or leave them. It's up to you. But what we're actually going to do is go back to that parcel settings panel. So now you can see it's a little bit longer. The reason for that is we're able to now determine more things about this parcel. So the first is number of units in each block, right? We're just going to keep it simple. All of them are 1. And then this one, we're actually going to keep it at 1 level. Now, maybe you want 2 stalls here. Maybe you don't, right? We're kind of designing for that, and I'll show you that in a second. We're going to leave those all at 1 for now, but we can make those changes later. Cool. So setbacks, that's the fun part. So you can see some of these are really set back and they're kind of angled in a way that we probably wouldn't do that for, a 3-unit wide run, right? So what we're going to do is actually set all of these setbacks in order to get us to the building size that we want. So what that allows us to do is say, let's say all of our front setbacks are going to be 10 feet, just to give us a little bit of breath from that roadway. The driveways are going to be right up front, but I'm going to show you how that's going to work in a second. Because our side setbacks, right, are actually going to be 10 feet. What that allows us to do, because we just have a side that's for both, we can essentially assume that in the end of the day, we're going to offset center those units. Gives a little bit more side yard, allows you to put those driveways in to get that 18 feet or 12 feet, I should say, for a single driveway along the side of the building. And then same thing, setback. We're just going to make them all 5 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and click out of here. Now you can see these actually look more like a single, a double, and a triple, right? So with that in mind, now if we go back to 3D, you can see it's a little bit more uniform coming out in here. You can start to see the buildings coming through, and allows you to get a better sense of scale for what this development could look like. Cool. Any questions? Just giving everyone a moment to catch up. If you're doing this at home in real time too, kudos. But if not, it's totally okay. We can always do it live together another time too. Cool. So now that we've got our max area, there's a couple other ways that we can actually solve this. So I can actually turn off the driveways too if we don't really love the way they're kind of looking, and maybe just a distraction for us at the moment. Something that we can do to get the buildings a little bit better is set a target area. So what we just done is set a max area. So that basically said within the confines of our setbacks, fill it with square footage that we can lease, right? Which works because I kind of did the math on the side and we were able to back into it. Another way to do that is to set a target area. So within here, now you can see a few turned red and a few got real small. And so what that does is within your parcel settings panel, you can actually now set a footprint size as well as your front side and rear setback. The reason for this is if you understood like the general zoning that was happening within your area and you're like, okay, within these parcels, I know I have to have these setbacks, but I don't want a maximum area. Maybe I want some variability in my land or my parcels, and I want to see what's the target square footage. So let's go back to the 900 square feet real quick. And we're just going to say 900 square feet here. Oops. And I 009. 900 square feet. I have a fun fact about James Bond if anyone wants to hear it later, but let me know. So 900 square feet, we're going to do 1,500, and we also are going to do 2,400. And so what you're seeing is some variability here. So we're actually not able to get to those based on the depth and the width flex. So this is something we talked about a little bit earlier. So basically what that allows us to do is this width flex right here. We're able to say, okay, we want 35 feet, but within 10 feet north or south of that number, we're willing to accept. Now, if I were to say, let's check these out because they're going to be the smallest ones. If I say, I don't want any flex here, we can start to see, maybe we need a little bit better here. The other part of that is actually going to be our parcel depth flex at the same time. So we're allowing it to, again, shrink 10 feet north or south of that 75. So if I go ahead and say, nope, I don't want that, now you can start to see all of them are getting to that exact solve because we want no flexibility. We want this more rigid, and we want exactly what we're asking TestFit for. It allows, the reason to use a width flex or a depth flex is if you have a very non-rectilinear, kind of funkier site, and you're willing to have some of that flexibility in order to get more units on. Every site might not be perfect in that you're going to have to play with your layout at the end of the day. Like maybe it has to be on a little bit of an angle because you have, a tree in the way or whatever it is, right? Or a sight line that doesn't exactly work. So we give you that flexibility. Because we're mostly rectilinear on this site, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of all of those. And that's going to give us more perfect rectangles, if you will. Cool. So now we've got our layouts in. We have a little bit of extra area that we don't love because we want that efficiency, right? If you want the parks, that's great too. I would like the efficiency. So we have 203 footprints. So we're going to go up back to our parcels and really quickly just change that row axis. 200 here. Now we've got 200 there. We've got 203 again. They're just on an angle. I like that because I want 3 more than I'd rather have with better layout. I've got my clubhouse rather than maybe more rectilinear, and they're, only 200. So now I get to have 3 more, which gives me a little bit more dollars in the pocket on the development side, but I get to have this better layout. When we were talking about that clubhouse too, we wanted that to be a certain size. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that. It's blue right now. We can always change that. I'm actually going to put it as like a red or an orange, just because that stands out a little bit more and doesn't look like a pond. in here, we can say what's our target base level area. I'm just going to go ahead and put in 2,500 just for a size. Now it just reshrank to that size. And if we open up our expanded tabulation, you can see it's exactly 3,600. So it's a little bit bigger. We're adding a little bit of a percentage on that, but very easy to kind of make those changes too. We can just go ahead and adjust our side setbacks, that sort of thing. Cool. Same thing with the parking. So we've got parking already coming in here as a module. We can just drag and move that around. Maybe we want that up front. Just kind of make that easy. We've got an access point here, all good things. We actually just added another footprint because we moved it over, and it's more efficient to put those units over here. Cool. So another common question when we're looking at these types of layouts is, what is this, right? Just a little bit of an appendage. What this is actually doing is allowing for an extension of the roadway. It does get you a single loaded run, which isn't the most efficient, when we're thinking about double loaded here versus single, but it does get you more units. And so just to show you what that looks like if we were to remove that, is we call that the corner angle threshold. So basically think about the angle that the units or the road network is coming at, and what's the angle threshold where we want to extend that roadway out. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and toss this down to 60. And now you can see we cut that out, so there's no more single loaded, but we also lost 4 or 5 units because we now have unused space in those corners. So it is nice to have. It does look like an entrance, but we don't deem them as entrances. What we actually have is access entrances. So you can move these around however you kind of want. We have one over here which actually landed perfectly, but always very easy to move those. So maybe we want to line that with that road, and there you go. Cool. So when we're working with all of these site plans, right, there's one other way, or with these parcels, I should say, there's another way to kind of go about this. And that's from a static perspective. So what I'm going to do is go to schemes real quick and just go ahead and copy that. You can see I did a few test ones earlier today just to make sure I was ready for all of you. But what we're going to do is go ahead and hit that plus button. Schemes and TestFit's great. Basically, it allows you to copy over and save your work within the same file. So now all I did is change it. If I were to just make one simple change my row axis, great. If I go back to scheme 5, the old one's still there. Didn't lose any of my work, but now I can do more testing. So let's go in back to our parcels. And within static, what we're going to do is go back into our settings. And now we can actually say, how big do we want the physical building? So especially for manufactured housing, we kind of know our modules and we want to solve around them, right? So what I'm going to do is say we're going to do 15 by 60. You're going to see it all jump around behind me for a second. We're going to do 25 by 60, and we're going to do 40 by 60. I just got a question. Chris, looks like you can grab any of the elements and adjust from there. Basically, yes, right? So more of a parameter-based approach, so you have all the parameters on the left, but yes, live in Canvas, grab something, move it around, it's just going to go ahead and dynamically resolve for you. We're going to see that here in just a second when we add a pond as well, so you can see what that looks like. But great question, absolutely. And then same thing, so front, side, and rear setbacks are all set. We now have our units set up, so we're good to go there. And the setbacks, instead of looking at the site and coming inward, we're looking at the static building and going outward. Makes it a little bit easier for manufactured housing. Wanted to show it to you guys last because this is super useful. But it's also fun to look at the other ways of solving too. But this is now, we're basically, quote, perfect on our building layouts. And then we can just solve the resulting lot size around them. I'm going to move my clubhouse back. He just kind of moved around for us, so makes that really easy. And let's go back to our tabulation. We're at 194. Cool. So we can go ahead and change that however we want. Maybe we want to actually look at something like this, 198. I'm good at that because I like the layout. Makes that super simple. And there you go. Cool. So yeah, Chris, let's go ahead, kind of jump in and see like the full element moving. So we wanted to add a pond to this as well, right? So we're not even done yet. We're going to go back to our site. And within our site, think about that hierarchy. We kind of want things solving below it and then different pieces kind of coming in to solve above. So something that has to solve and something that the lots have to solve around is going to be an easement, right? If we had one, we don't want it on this site. We can fake one here in a second. But the big one is, retention ponds. So I'm just going to go ahead and select add. We're going to go ahead and do pond. And there you go. Now we've got a pond. And so we're doing a rectangular fill right now. We can also freeform that as well. So if you wanted it in a certain area, freeform does get rid of this next piece, which is going to be your percent of an area. So there's kind of fun ways to, I wouldn't say fake that, but we can kind of make it work by creating, let's just say this is actually going to be 5% like we talked about. We can leave that whole pond there, right, if we want to. We know our contour lines, the low point's kind of to the left. So what I'm going to do is grab this and drag it over. You're going to see some funky solves as we're making those changes. But as I bring that down and make it work for, kind of just a smaller pond, now you can see TestFit's dynamically resolving for us. Putting that in this corner actually works. And now we've gotten to a point where the pond makes sense because it's on the low point of the site, but it's still 5% of the site. And we have our clubhouse right around there. We've got our buildings remapping to a brand new road network that does work around that as well. And our entrances and everything still work too. So we're at 190. And again, we can go in and say, maybe I don't love this row axis. Let's kind of cycle through. That one gets 194. I wouldn't draw that personally from scratch because I would say that's too much extra space. But in the way that this is solving makes it really simple too, to see that full number. 181, right? 188, 198 makes that great. So something to think about too that I didn't mention earlier is row length. So when we come up here for a second, we're just about on time, so I'm going to make this quick. When we come up here to our parcels and we're looking at our road network, we're going to increase this to 25 feet. We're going to decrease our turn radius to 25 feet. So now you can see we've now met all of our parameters, but something I want to play with is our max block length. So you see how this block is pretty long, right? And let's just go back for a second to our other option without the pond, because these have really long blocks, or short blocks, I should say. So coming back, I'm just going to do the same thing, 25 feet, and then same thing, 25 feet turn radius. So 500 feet block length. If I wanted to, I'm just going to do 100 feet just to show you. And now we've got really tiny blocks. Maybe we're living in Portland or something like that, right? So you can see how we can get dynamic there. We can also then increase this by 10. Maybe I want 1,000 feet. And now we just have really long blocks just to max out that density, because every time you draw a road, you're giving up square footage, right, from the roadway to your lots. So being able to do that, now we're at 220 units within this one. So makes that really simple too. And I love doing this, going in 3D and changing the orientation. It's just fun to see that kind of dynamically resolve. It also shows you how that mix is working in real time. Got some bigger boys down here, and then up here, the mix changes in order to make sure we hit that mix as best we can. Awesome. So that's TestFit with manufactured housing. There's a lot more that we can dive into, getting into the nitty gritty of driveways, more unique units, that sort of thing, more dynamic pieces. But for now, this is gets you off and running and can get you a plan out the door in what took us 15, 20 minutes here. So if you want to kind of play around with TestFit, feel free to shoot me a message, an email. I'll put my link in here after if you want to take a look. If you think I did it wrong, also please reach out and let me know. But we're very excited to help solve a lot of different typologies. And like I said, in the next few weeks, we'll be hopping on here to do some retail, which is much more configurable, a little bit of a different solve than what other TestFit users are. So makes it really fun to kind of show that live. We got one long question. Let me go ahead and read this real quick. Great question. So basically, the question is around alignment. So we're trying to align elements to a certain piece. So we typically do, the way it works right now is we align to our parcel lines. So you can kind of see that very simply on the left and the top left, right? So looking at, we've got a parcel line coming here, parcel line coming there, and we start off with units and then road, right? Up here where we have the angles, you can see that coming through as well. we have a little bit of a funky situation here that we can always adjust, just to make that easy. But you can always come in and draw in your own roads too. So if I came in and click this road network, I can just go ahead, draw my own, and test is going to dynamically resolve around you. So makes that really simple. First solve with TestFit, next solve with all of your intelligence. Great question, though. If there's anything specific you like or you'd like to see, feel free to shoot me a message, and happy to run through it with you. Awesome. Well, everyone, fantastic to see you all. Thank you for joining me on this fun TestFit Tuesday. Like I said, if you have any questions, if you still have those game ideas, I'm all ears. So feel free to toss those in. But thank you again, and hope to see you all in the new year. Thanks, everyone.